I want to move into Fandom, or,
Yes.
which is a great, great book, Fanocracy. We've had Ken Schmidt on our show from Harley Davidson, and he talked about the importance of brand ambassadors and how it can transform traditional business models. I've talked to you, about your experience. I don't know if it was during the pandemic or at the end of the pandemic, where you bought a vehicle and kind of toured around, and you might have had it beforehand, but you were a fan for, I don't know what brand it was, if it was Winnebago or another one, where you tailored it to your custom life, surfing, bike riding, being out in the beautiful woods of New England or wherever it took you. And you were living your own core virtues. Talk a little bit about fandom today, tie it in with social media, influencers, these YouTube channels, and, help me land the plane again.
So I love the idea of fandom. I have for a long time. The book I wrote, is thank you for mentioning, is called Fanocracy. And I was thinking, this is probably, I don't know, 10 years ago. I was thinking about fandom, the things I love. Some of them are around me right now. I've got a Grateful Dead logo over one shoulder. I've got a surfboard that I actually made over another shoulder. I've got a NASA model of the Saturn V rocket. I love the Apollo lunar program. I love to surf. There's Fanocracy. Thank you. And so I was thinking about this idea of fandom and came up with this word Fanocracy. And then my daughter and I got together to write this book. And we got together because I realized I'm a middle-aged white guy. I love the Grateful Dead. My daughter's a mixed race millennial who loves Harry Potter and loves Korean pop music, who happens to be an emergency room doctor. And so we had the same idea of fandom, but we came at it from completely different perspectives. So we thought it'd be cool to write this book together. And my daughter, Reiko, did a neuroscience degree at Columbia as her undergraduate prior to medical school. So we brought in this idea of neuroscience, the neuroscience of fandom. How and why do people become fans of something? And we looked at a number of different aspects of neuroscience and fandom. But one of the things that came up for us was the importance of how close you are to another person, proximity. And there's a neuroscientist named Edward T. Hall. We read his works, and he identified several different levels of proximity, starting with so-called public space, anything about 15 feet and further away. When someone's in our public space, we're aware they're there, but they don't really bother us subconsciously because they're far away. When they get inside of about 15 feet, they become in our social space. And we're now aware that they're there, and our guard is up. Is that danger? Is that someone we know? Is that a friend? Are they a part of our tribe or not? And then inside of 4 feet is called personal space, and it gets dialed up even further. So those people who are in our personal space, who we know and love, we feel great. But if you don't know them, like in a crowded elevator or a subway car or something, you feel danger. That's why you get a little nervous subconsciously when you walk into an elevator. If there's other people in there, you're in this closed space, in personal space with someone who you don't know. This goes back thousands of generations. It's a survival technique. We're talking about this idea of fandom. And when you're close to people who are part of your tribe or your family, you feel safe and comfortable, which is why at the Sphere, even though people I didn't know got into my personal space, were dancing near each other, because we're part of the same tribe. And as a meeting planner, thinking about how you bring people together into the same social space, the same personal space, becomes really important, because done well, some events that I've gone to that have done this really well, I'll give you an example. The HubSpot Inbound conference does this well. People go away thinking, wow, I became part of a tribe. I want to go back next year. And you might be in your hotel room, a couple blocks away from the venue. You see someone with the badge on, you have an instant bond, even if you've never met them, and you have a chit chat with them. Hey, how's the conference? What are the keynotes you've liked? That's building fandom from the perspective of being a meeting planner. But I'm going to go you one more, Seth, with this neuroscience.
Bring it on.
I want to talk to you briefly about another form of neuroscience we identified which is called the mirror neurons phenomenon. So I mentioned this idea of how proximate you are to somebody. A social space is inside of 4 feet, and those who are in there, you're either nervous because you don't know them, or you're bonding because they're part of the tribe. Works with video too, and we're doing it right now. Let me explain what I mean. The idea of mirror neurons is that when you see somebody doing something, your brain can react as if you're doing it yourself, which I will demonstrate, Seth. I've got a lemon and a slice of lemon. If I take a bite of this slice of lemon, my brain will fire. My neurons will fire. I'm going to taste it and I'm going to feel it. But because of mirror neurons, yours will too. So let me take a bite. Wow, it's tart, it makes my eyes kind of water a little bit. My
Mhm.
mouth puckers up. I mean, biting a lemon is a
Yeah.
super strong experience. My brain is firing. Seth, is your brain firing too?
My spine and shoulders kind of
A
straightened up a little bit,
little bit of hair going up
to
on the back of your
to
neck.
mitigate that like sense a little bit.
So crazy, right? So that's
Yeah.
mirror neurons. Now, where it's interesting from the perspective of a meeting planner is if you're doing a virtual event and you're doing it well, people in your audience will bond with that person on stage, virtual stage, like we're on this virtual conversation right now. For those of you who are watching, and if you're listening, you may even feel that mirror neuron, little bit of lemon in your throat as well. But while you're watching, you can see that we are in your social space right now. We're within it looks as if we're in 4 feet, Seth and I, if you're
Yeah.
watching on video. That is exactly why you feel that you personally know a movie star or a television star. You know you've never met, say, Tom Cruise, but if you saw him in the street, you'd think you were friends, even though you've never met him. And so that's the idea of mirror neurons. Super important for speakers to understand that concept, for meeting planners to understand that concept. And so the whole idea of proximity and virtual proximity as a very, very, very important aspect of how to do branding. And I'll take it one final step further to maybe land this plane. But as a professional speaker, I love this concept of understanding the power of proximity. That's why in nearly every speech, and I always clear it with the meeting planner first, but nearly every speech, I find at least one opportunity to go down the stage and into the audience. And I ask some questions. If I'm doing a speech about fandom, I ask questions about, hey, what are you a fan of? Who wants to share what they're a fan of? I get a handheld mic. What are you a fan of? And what I'm doing is I'm actually activating people's intelligence around this idea of proximity. So those people who I'm actually talking to, I'm in their personal space. I'm within 4 feet. I'm putting a microphone into their mouth. I'm thanking them. I'm shaking their hands. Oh, fan of the Boston Celtics. Oh, fan of fly fishing. Oh, fan of needlepoint. Whatever it might be. Fan of Harry Potter books. And so that then gets their mirror neurons firing. But then if it's up on the iMac, the big screens that I'm doing that, then everybody's mirror neurons are firing because they are seeing me talk to that person. They're seeing me talk to that other audience member, and they're experiencing that in exactly the same way because of mirror neurons. So super interesting aspect of fandom that, I mean, I love this stuff. I
Yeah.
love figuring out what's going on and, whether it's neuroscience or whatever, and then trying to incorporate something related to that in my own talks, and then understanding from the perspective of meeting planners how you can build certain things into an audience. And just as a final thought, that's one reason why panel discussions or fireside chats can work well, because you've got people together, they're talking to one another, and the audience's brains are firing because of mirror neurons.
I
Wow.
love
You asked me a really big question. I don't know if I touched on everything,
No,
but
it's perfect. It couldn't have asked for more. And this is why, our audience, which is, our tribe, likes and subscribes to us because they get the rich conversations and these rich insights